All right, we are live, and the New York Mets have seen the future and are ready to embrace it. That's right, I'm talking about DJ Stewart. The king is here. Fucking Epler mode. Where are the sunglasses? We're throwing the sunglasses on. A little guy named DJ Stewart came into our lives a couple of months ago. We all just kind of put him as the face of the 2023 season, where you're like, what the fuck is DJ Stewart doing hitting six right now? And guy won a goddamn baseball game all by himself last night and probably making Max Scherzer very angry. So shout out to our boy DJ Stewart. I saw One Shining Mets, who I think One Shining Mets might be like my favorite current Mets Twitter follow. He just has some good takes, same vibes as me, and keeps the same kind of news and thoughts I like to hear. He's like, do the Mets have a hitting machine? Have we figured out a system? Phil, are we the fucking Houston Astros now just based on DJ Stewart? He has an OPS over 1,000.
I can't. I keep waiting for the magic to run out, but there you go. He's just hitting home runs still. So
the magic it's like when I found out he was a first round pick by the Orioles in 2015, I was like, is this the same guy? Because he's put on a little bit of weight. But you know what? He's hitting like a first round pick.
Yep, that's home run power right there, Kyle. That's home run power that he added to his frame there.
Got 9 more home runs than Dom Smith has since like 2020.
Oh God, Dom Smith, the ghost of Christmas past right there. Has Dom gotten on the board yet this season?
He's hit a couple home runs, but not every Nats fan I follow says all he does is hit like slap singles and like dribbler infield hits. Like, classic. Yeah.
Okay. So, but still, our boy DJ Stewart, 279 batting average for all the batting average people out there, 9 home runs, 18 RBIs, which is outright hilarious. I love that when the RBIs are twice as much as the home runs and nothing more. But an OPS over 1,000 right now. But the big story of the day, or I guess last night into today, Ronny Mauricio getting called up from AAA. I have to admit, if it happened like last year, even earlier this year, I was all hopped up. He did have his struggles, I know, and then he's turned it on later this month. Kyle, 1 to 10, how excited are you about Ronny Mauricio being in the Mets lineup for the next month here?
I'm excited to finally get to see what everyone's been clamoring for. It's very weird that he got brought up and Beatty is like, they've basically just swapped roles. 23 home runs in AAA, though, you'd hope that translates to something. The one thing I'm really interested in seeing, though, is that he's such a free swinger, and everyone's like, well, he's gotten better this year. Has he? We'll find out, because Major League pitching to AAA pitching, there is absolutely a difference, and they're going to know his tendencies and what he likes to swing at. So that's going to be the biggest measuring stick of whether or not he's got staying power up here.
To be clear, AAA pitching and Major League pitching, there's a difference, but not on the Mets. The other 28, like I'm sure like the A's are probably the same boat, but there's probably most of the teams, like 25 or so, there is an actual difference. Unfortunately, we are not one of them, but Mauricio won't be facing that pitching. Farmer Phil, how are we feeling about Ronnie coming up to the bigs here?
Well, for one, the baseball is different in AAA. They use a different like juiced ball, so that's why you see like Mauricio's OPS is like near like the league average OPS in AAA this year is like 800. So that's why I still like Mauricio has 23 home runs. It's like really good. So it's like, well, that's kind of what everyone else is doing down there. Like Tomas Nido is crushing down there. That gives you an idea.
They should really do it in the opposite direction. They should dead the ball, and then when you see the guys with big numbers, you're like, well, those guys can actually fucking hit.
Exactly. That's why I feel like being in AAA isn't that good for development, because how can you tell if a guy is good if everyone's just crushing?
That was the most frustrating thing about those Vegas days, where especially Vegas in particular was just like a juice stadium, essentially.
Launch
and we didn't even we're not even talking about the flight from Vegas to New York every time someone got hurt.
And like, if you could pick a city, there's no city that is worse in America to send young kids in their 20s with a ton of downtime and maybe a little coin in their pocket, not a lot for the most part, than Las Vegas. It's like, oh yeah, that's just, and again, that was when they always said Vegas and the Mets were the two entities that no one wanted to do business with, and that's how they got together. Now we're in Syracuse, which it's like kind of with the zone in Syracuse. I feel like Syracuse was never looked at as like a real basketball team for so long because of the zone. I'm a Syracuse fan, and they used to slander my boy Jim Boeheim for that. So the juice balls are there, but this is the thing. Mauricio last year, 21 years old, in AA with very much not juice balls, 259 average, 26 home runs, 20 steals. And again, that's a 21-year-old in with 540 plate appearances. So I think
and
Mauricio,
the Dominican Winter League MVP coming into this season.
Yeah, he was always a guy that I projected a couple years down the road as it is. And the fact that he's here right now is both a mix of he was pretty good for a little while now, and like the season has absolutely fallen apart. I imagine if we're at the point where we were last year, maybe Mauricio isn't getting a call up because we had like 7 more guys that we didn't just give away or trade at the trade deadline. So
I'm just nervous. Like people immediately were like, he swings like Javi Baez. Like he literally doesn't see a single pitch he doesn't like. And I'm like, every time you see a highlight, it's him hitting a home run or getting a hit. So it's like you don't see the ugly at-bats. I'm just trying to limit those. If he can limit those in the month that he's up here, then he's got a shot.
I mean, Keith Law said he sees Alfonso Soriano in him, so...
Alfonso Soriano swing like a 40-ounce bat, though.
Yeah. Our
maybe
boy
Keith Law can be right for once.
Yeah, right. Our boy Joe DeMeo is puking hearing all these player comps. We know he's not a player comp guy. If I was a minor league writer or I covered the minors, that's all I would do is player comps, because that's all the dumb fans like me understand is like, oh, you say Soriano, you see Baez, you have a thought in your head. Even again, Brett Gardner for Drew Gilbert, I have this fiery fucking lefty, Lenny Dykstra, all that kind of stuff. So I'm excited for Mauricio. It gives you a reason. It's like a little renewed interest here. So because like there was a couple weeks there where it's just like, I can't believe how every minute of last year was just Mets. It's in your brain. It's in your blood. It's all you care about. And then a year later, same team for the most part. And it's just like, I can't even get upset. You're just numb to it. I even see the Rocket. I'm allowed to say the Rocket again. The Rocket even said, like, I am officially detached from the 2023 Red Sox. And that's kind of how it goes. Like when you hit the cancel button, you kind of just lose feeling. You're just like, whatever, I'm not going to live and die. You go from 100% balls to the wall, living and dying, to just being like, I got a fantasy football draft I should probably study for right now. So
I was
having
a big game on Monday saying like, oh, I haven't watched in 3 weeks because I've been away. And like just being home, it's like, well, I'll pull it up on my phone and watch it on mute. Well, I'll look into this. I'm going to the game on Saturday. Like it's still a sickness.
I mean, at this point, there was no reason to tune in other than the great DJ Stewart. Is he going to hit home runs? Is he going to have a walk-off hit by pitch? You just never know what's going to happen next. So now Mauricio being here, do they know where they're definitely throwing him? Or are they going to put him around the diamond? I don't really feel.
They said mostly second base.
Mostly second base, which feels like Acuna's position, For
Acuna can move to center field. He can move to third.
That's we're like the Giants. They're playing positionless baseball, just like Brian Dable wants to play positionless football. I kind of love it. Okay, so that's the thing with these athletes, and I think in general the way baseball is going, that seems to be the way it's going, right, Phil? It's like you have a guy, you're not going to be like you have to stay here or you're going to get blocked.
If you're a shortstop prospect, that usually means like you're one of the most athletic people on the team. Now, that may not translate each position. Like he was a hack in left field where he like took bad routes, couldn't track anything. But if you're even athlete build, you can play any position.
Do you guys think it's a detriment that Beatty is only under consideration to come back up? That's got to hurt your ego at a certain point. He's the first one that's called up out of all of the guys, and he's the only one who doesn't get the call back.
Was he the first one called up?
Alvarez. Well, yeah, for kind of last year.
Yeah. I was just thinking back to the way the timeline
Vientos up and down, but he's kind of positionless, so like you could understand that. But like, dude was supposed to be the third baseman, so
even last year his call up was kind of rushed because Eduardo Escobar was hurt, Luis Guillorme got hurt, so he wasn't even supposed to be up last year, but I guess shit happened.
He was quote unquote most major league ready, and now we're calling.
And then we saw him.
Right.
And that's just what happens so many times with these prospects. And that's kind of why I am still not like all the way in and being like, oh, Mauricio's going to absolutely crush and he's going to be the savior. It's like, let's see what we can get. Anything we get out of this season in terms of the guys that get called up or the guys in the minors doing their thing is going to feel like a win for us. Beatty had 5 home runs a couple weeks ago in 14 games I see here. So, I mean, he has been better for sure, but I guess it sucks if you're him, but then again, it's like, dude, Mauricio has been down there so long, probably just waiting to get called up. Now he's in the show, gets to eat good, travel on the planes, all that kind of stuff. And is AAA over? Did the season?
No, I think they extended to the end of the month.
They go to the end of the month? Okay.
They treat these September call-ups too. It's kind of like, I mean, the Wilpons days, the way things were going, like Tebow was eventually going to get called up because it's just like, it's a reward in September. Like you did a good job all season long. Like maybe you're not going to be up for like extended period of time, or you'll have a shot in spring training. But it's more of just like, this is your bonus for having a good season, which he absolutely deserves it. Because, when you're having a good season and everyone's chirping you like, why are you still down here? Why are you still down here? That's what's going on in the clubhouse. So,
yeah. And as far as I can tell, there was no like, Mauricio puts on Instagram, I don't know why I'm not getting called. There was no controversy. And granted, he's fucking 22 years old. It's not like he's Crash Davis down there toiling away in the minors. But I'm happy to have him up. I'm happy for him. I'm happy for us. And Brett Beatty, I feel like Beatty will probably get up here like within a week. I feel like that's just inevitable. As long as DJ Stewart is losing at bats, I'll be fine with him. We have to make sure he keeps getting the at bats. And then kind of the guys that have been making a lot of these calls right before we went live here. Who was it? Michael Marino. Sources, there has been a huge shakeup in the Mets front office. Kevin Howard, who's the director of player development, has been fired, as well as Jeff Lebo, we're going to say, director of pro player evaluation. Other high-ranking officials and analysts said to be fired as well. Changes coming to the Mets org. I feel like this was something that was probably becoming whenever Stearns or whoever the fuck is the player of baseball operations, if we ever get one, whenever they were hired, just kind of beat it by a month. Phil, how should I feel about this? What does this news tell you? Because you said it perfectly in the group text.
I mean, we saw it. We saw all our prospects come up, and they just were not ready. Whether it's the juiced ball in AAA, but it's like other teams. You look around the league, the Reds had a bunch of guys come up. They hit the ground running. The D-backs, a bunch of guys come up. They hit the ground running. Why is it our guys just not good? Like our best rookies, Kodai Senga, came over from Japan.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And that was the guy. Remember how many times we were saying in like the preseason, like the spring training pods, like, all right, we're going to give Senga time if it takes him a little while to adjust. And he's like, nah, I'm good. I've been pitching in Japan against motherfuckers forever. It's even though they get different ball, different mound, different level of competition. And it's all these guys. I mean, even though we love him. He was the guy that kept us alive for so long. Alvarez lately has been a goddamn disaster. And, you're a catcher first year in the bigs. I understand.
That I think I attribute more to like fatigue. Like he's never caught as much in a year. He had ankle surgery last year. That I'm not really that upset about. But it's like Mark Vientos is like 1,000 OPS in AAA. His OPS starts with a 5 in the majors. That just shouldn't happen. Along with being a hack at third base, which we've known for a while. But if you're going to do that, you need to at least hit. He hasn't. And Brett Beatty, we saw his defense. Yeah, it was good when he came up, but then it slowly started deteriorating, and it's like, what happens here?
Yeah.
It's just not good.
Looking at the offensive players, like Verlander on his way out the door had nothing but nice things to say about the Mets, except for the fact that he didn't think the analytics department was there. He's like, he's trying to help guys whose job it is to figure out the tendencies. And he's like, no, this is wrong. Like, this is how you should be approaching it. And he's getting pushback. And it's like, dude is the reigning AL Cy Young pitcher of the year. And he wants to go back to Houston.
Future Hall of Famer.
Way,
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So I guess we'll see what else shakes out. Again, I think there'll be more, tweets. I'm sure they'll have a whole breakdown on everyone that got let go and, what it means for the future. But with Steve Cohen, we said this. I don't think he's going to just make a move, knee-jerk stuff that like Steinbrenner would do back in the day. But I do think like if after time there's not enough good performances and there's like someone to blame, especially guys that are left holdovers from the Wilpon era, just fucking rip it out at the roots, throw it out and start fresh. And again, I think Stearns is going to come here with basically all the power in the world, and he's going to be able to say and do whatever he wants. And this probably won't even be the last of the firings here. So we'll see where it goes from there. Speaking of firings, he's gone. He's gone. Cookie Carrasco. After again, I understand.
No, he's still here. He's still here, Clem.
He's still here?
Yeah, he went unclaimed.
He comes back, and then we're like, oh, we're going to release you probably. I mean, we're probably going to release him, but we might need to spot start. He was in the bullpen last night in case we needed him. They were like, well, fuck it. If no one's claimed you yet, you might as well just throw.
Yeah, and Martinez said he's still a Met, so still have another month of cooking.
He has a pulse, so they will continue to put him on the mound.
Well, listen, I'll be honest, fellas. I've baked cookies in the past, and I burned the shit out of them once, and they were inedible. But just something about throwing away a cookie you don't want to do. Maybe it's just a fat guy in me saying that. And I don't know. Maybe, like, I just don't like if his name was just Carlos Carrasco, would he have even been around this long? Is it just the nickname? Then Giants just traded for a guy named Boogie. I'm like, that guy, I don't care what he does this year. You need to have a guy named Boogie in the locker room. That gets you a half a win. Having a guy named Cookie in baseball, it feels like it's like a natural fucking thing. So I honestly don't know what to say about this. You guys have fucking broken my heart live on the podcast. Shame on you, Kyle. Shame on you, Kyle Gelling. I'll send your ass back to Italy and Greece. I mean, you're not going to say no, are you?
No, I'm not.
Oh, man. So he was available in the pen last night, too?
Yeah. He was warming up when they were tied.
He would have pitched the 11th inning or the 10th inning if Brigham didn't get out of it. So
that was wild. Like, shout out our guy Jenko for helping us out there. Because, like, as soon as he put it in play, I'm like, there's no way you're getting a double play. He's too fast.
But he dumps out the way.
Yeah.
Oh, well, welcome back, Cookie. Threw you out there. They threw him out, and he came back like a boomerang. Again, like you said, Kyle, it could be a spot start. Could just be, hey, let's ensure that top six standings, anything like that. But Cookie Carrasco still a New York Met, breaking. But when Cookie does want to, if Cookie does get cut, or if Cookie after the season has, realized what his baseball card numbers look like, he might want to retire. And that may not be the case for everyone else here, because everyone thinks about the day they'll eventually get to retire and enjoy all the freedom that comes with it. Cookie Carrasco sooner than me, but who says you have to wait decades before we get to kick back and chill out? So take advantage of that free will and spend the summer, soon to be fall, chilling like a retiree, and pair those moments with Coors Light, the beer that's made to chill. Coors Light and cookies, I feel like I could probably go pretty well together. It's a nice pairing. I'm gonna do a little taste test. Phil, you're gonna love it. Upstairs, I got the Costco cookies, the macadamia nut with the white chocolate. Maybe I'll dip my drink my Coors Light, and I'll let you know how the macadamia nut cookies pair with that. It's a hell of a lot better than Carlos Carrasco, I'll tell you that much. It's the beer that's made to chill, pairs well with a retired state of mind. The mountains on the bottles and cans even turn blue when your beer is cold, so you know when it's time to grab another. Perfect for all your summer plans or lack thereof. No judgment here. So this summer, chill like you're retired with Coors Light. Get Coors Light delivered straight to your door with Drizzly or Instacart by going to CoorsLight.com/believe. Celebrate responsibly. Coors Brewing Company, Golden, Colorado. Get your beers now. You can watch Ronnie at night. And then, hey, we got football this weekend, boys. I'm not even a big college guy, but it's just nice to have the gridiron back in my life.
Yep.
Next week, we got the NFL. Kyle has his Packers back. Me and Phil have our Giants back. KFC and Pabs have their Jetties back. And it's going to be a good old time. We have a watch party coming up in a few weeks. Mets-Phillies watch party with the Giants and the Niners. So we'll be doing that. We'll be drinking our Coors Lights happily and responsibly. Thank you, Coors Light. We love you guys. Through the good and the bad and the Metsy. Moving along. A guy who has been here for a bit. This Pete Alonso shit, do we think we could finally put a pin on it after Disha's story yesterday about basically everyone in the franchise saying, we love Pete, we hope he's around in 24, and he's a good guy in the clubhouse. Pete Alonso, not a dick, was basically the headline that I was reading in all those stories. Is that what you're hearing from your sources, Phil?
Yeah, and it's like what I was telling you the other day. It's like they aren't going to trade him unless they get overwhelmed with an offer. Like, I don't want to sit here and say, oh, it's a guarantee he'll be back. But if someone's offering you, I don't know, like their top 4 or 5 guys, like if the Padres offer you Juan Soto for Pete Alonso straight up, are you going to say no? Like, probably not.
Yeah, and this becomes like it's a Pete Alonso thing, or it's a Steve Cohen thing. He doesn't want to pay him. It's like, no. If anything, it kind of just shows me they're smart enough to know what they're doing for once. And
Mark Feinsand said they made him an offer that they thought was good, but out of Pete's ballpark. That's probably my guess. It was like they offered him like 160. Pete wants like 260 or something. And like I said, the plan will be he'll probably play in 2024, enter free agency, and they try to bring him back like they did with Brendan Nimmo, like they did with Edwin Diaz. Entering free agency isn't like a death sentence, like, oh, he's gone. Like, yes, it happened to DeGrom, but not everyone's Jacob DeGrom.
Yeah, and Edwin Diaz had the perfect season going for free agency. He's back. Nimmo, perfect season ending free agency. He's back. Aaron Judge broke the he broke the AL home run record, right? He's back with the Yankees.
Yeah, I dare Pete Alonso did 70 home runs in 2024 if he's still here. If he's not, I don't want him at any.
Yeah, Steve Cohen will be sure upset if Pete Alonso had 74 home runs on his way to taking the Mets World Series because he has to pay a little more money. It's like, what are we even talking about here, fellas? Kyle, like you were here for the last episode, but there was like 4 other episodes when you were gone that we had to talk about this stuff. I mean, I imagine you're kind of just all on the same line with Pete on all this, right?
Number one, if you have players in your clubhouse going out of their way to seek out a reporter to be like, this is bullshit, he's not going to talk on it, we're going to talk on it on his behalf, like this isn't happening, he's not toxic in the clubhouse, that should be all you need to know about the clubhouse. If they're going out of their way to make sure that their guy's taken care of, people are talking about like McNeil is the only one that came to his event and shit like that. It's just ridiculous. Number 2 is WFAN is a shell of themselves. It's a fucking joke. They had Lugauer and Marash on, and I'm not going to call out the producers because I was producer and like, you know, you try to get as much face time as you can, but they're talking out of their ass and then they're going to turn around and pretend like Sal Licata hasn't been talking about this for a fucking week. Like he's like a B-list Skip Bayless trying to drum up headlines. Like, what are we doing here? He said it. And then I literally, the 7 line tweeted it out. It's Sal saying it, and then Marash going, nobody at this radio station ever alluded to the fact that he was the toxic reason. And it's like, what the fuck are we doing? Like, nobody wants to listen to your radio station because they know more as fans on Twitter than you do, even though your job is to talk about sports all day.
You know what that reminds me of? It's like when Mike Francesa had said something outrageous, and it's like, I never said that. And
Right.
you should show him a video of him saying exactly that.
Yes.
Yeah. We need a back after this for like everything WFAN now. It's
so
crazy.
Bad. It's
Yeah,
just
man.
so bad.
And it's the worst when you're the team that kind of is the lightning rod because, like, the Yankees don't get the same treatment as the Mets get. And that's because the Yankees have won for so long and the Mets have been a shit show for so long. But when you're a Mets fan, you're just like, I'm so sick of this, you know, form of media fucking me over. Like Manish Mehta was straight up bad for the Jets. Like that dude would just impose his will and whatever he would do through the headlines. And like players have talked about it, reporters have talked about it. And when he got let go, it was a great day for them. He was off the beat finally. It was like, that's one less, like it's hard enough to win in the NFL. And if you're the fucking Jets with all the shit that they have to go through, and then to have some dude just poisoning the well every different time, you know, to get their clicks, to sell their papers, whatever it may be. So it's tough as a Mets fan. But it's good to see, like, I think that's the best part about Steve. Cohen is so transparent with everything. He's like, nope, that's bullshit. Yeah. That's not what's happening here. And
we never like outed the person, but like a couple of years back, we had a player flat out telling us like all the players, even for SNY, would like be in the clubhouse watching SNY, being like hate watching everybody that's talking about the Mets at the time. Remember that?
Yeah. Yep.
We were like, oh, like why are you paying attention to it? He's like, because they're actively rooting against us when they're supposed to be covering us. Like, what the fuck? Just be impartial. It's like so. It's clear as day.
And the funny thing is, like, remember the whole Gary, Keith, and Ron thing with like the airplanes and all the stuff that was going around? Like, you're not going to find any more like just fair people one way or the other. Like in New York, we'll sniff out the homers and be like, I can't stand this guy. He's not telling it like it is. Or you don't want to have someone that's just, you know, hypercritical. They're just making shit up just to, like you said, get their clicks and sell their shit. So there is a big part of New York that just wants to call it like it is. I find like, whenever I listen to like Tommy Henson with the Celtics, I'd be like, what the fuck is it's like Russia or, you know, North Korea, the kind of stuff that they would go on there. It's a completely different world. And, you know, I think we're kind of lucky with Gary, Keith, and Ron, but there are obviously, you know, the people on SNY that, you know, they benefit off of like the corpses. That's like that's one of my biggest gripes with Frank. It's like, Frank, you love the Mets, but like what you did last year flat out hurt the Mets. I mean, the Atlanta Braves have all said it. He's now dabbling with the goddamn Philly fanatic. And I'm like, what are we doing here, Franklin? What are we doing right now? But Frank has become he's not even a Mets fan. He's just a bigger than a Mets fan. He's a goddamn sports persona in himself. Also just saw someone in the chat say this earlier. Who was it? Zero said Jim Cavallini got fired. Who's Jim Cavallini? Well, I'm going to tell you right now. I just found out. He was the Mets director of performance since 2018. Phil, tell me about Jim Cavallini.
He sucks.
Okay. And that's why he lost his job 5 years later. That's a Sandy Alderson era firing, hiring, and now firing of today. He sucks. He was at Army of Fort Bragg before this. Basically, at this point, if you were here since 2018, you got to be very good at what you do. I don't even know if there's any part of the Mets, like the Mets social media team has clearly gotten better in the last few years. There's like even things like that. The whole organization, there's certain parts that have gotten better markedly over the last couple of years. So I guess if you're not doing your job and Phil says you suck, you suck. So that's going to be another thing for Stearns or whoever to hire down the road here. The chat. He sucks. Goodbye, Cavallini. Jim Cavallini confirmed sucks, and he sucks. Smart on from Armand there. Someone who does not suck, Edwin Diaz. Did you guys see the quote where he says he wants to come back and maybe throw some live innings, fire the bullets now? I think we touched on this, earlier in the season before we knew the season was going to go. Kyle, how do you feel about having Edwin Diaz come back? I mean, granted, whoever the fuck is still with the team has to check out the knee and say everything's good, and then have him come back and pitch and hopefully come back healthy.
I mean, he's not going to just show up and not have like a rehab, assignment where like maybe it'll be on like a backfield somewhere in Florida where we're not actually seeing it and he's doing like live BP or something. But like, I'd like to see him go full. And, it's kind of just bittersweet then, because if he's able to come back and be healthy and pitch at the end of this year, we could have absolutely used that help if this team was good. That would have been fantastic. Him and Robertson, not the Marlins Robertson, who fucking sucks, and Dominic Leone. We've lucked out on some of these trades, boys. You know what? I'll tell you what. But
am I going Epler mode? I'm going to go Epler mode, Kyle, because that motherfucker sold 2 pieces of trash, and we got prospects who are doing something right now. At least the minor league teams are winning because of them, right?
Yep.
Phil, I don't remember what you said about Diaz. I think you said, he has to pitch at some point. I'd rather him do it now and see
clear the mental checkpoint.
Yeah. Clear the mental checkpoint. See what's out there. And again, you have to make sure everything is an A+. He feels great. He feels this. He feels that. What do you think about this? Do you play the trumpets for Diaz if he comes in the game? Say he doesn't become the game, Anthony. You play the trumpets.
Yes.
You let the fans have some fun. It may not. And hey, if God forbid he get shelled, whatever. But that is one thing that that trumpets video took that thing to a level I don't think any of us saw. I mean, we were talking about that song in 2020 before any of us had ever heard it at the stadium, and that was kind of the moment. I mean, you could say that was the moment the Mets season started to end, because it was after that Dodgers series is where everything went downhill. But that SNY person, which again, even the SNY production, they've actually gotten, I think, better the last couple of years, even though that's not technically the Mets here.
That guy is just flexing on everybody. The shots he's coming up with, he did the one where he was shooting through a glass, and they were like, "Oh, the glass is half full," and then he had the moon in the background. He's all over the place. And
yeah, the giant blue moon he threw yesterday. that was wild. And they're showing. I love the production truck stuff, because I just all the chaos that goes on back there. They showed it obviously with Frank the Tank, and I think it was like a walk-off home run. Some very cool shit right there.
The Diaz trumpet will be like a nice, happy, like acid trip. Like where you get like the flashbacks of whatever, and it'll just be like, oh, simpler time where we had like the easiest 9th innings in the history of baseball.
Yeah, we're essentially, so like last year's Diaz trumpets, I'm comparing this to a movie that's, years old, but I just watched it. Me and Robbie did a podcast on it. It's basically like last year was the good part of the Boogie Nights where everyone's happy in the beginning. Then this season is the 80s where everything sucks and everyone's dying basically or getting completely fucked. And that trumpet would be kind of like the end where everything's feeling good. You're getting the vibes back. Mark Wahlberg's giant dick comes out, whatever it may be. It just feels like it's a good change and maybe getting us on track for hopefully next season. And if he doesn't come back, whatever, I'm not going to freak out about it. Then you're going to have the Frank of the Tanks of the world being like, he's never going to pitch again. His arm's destroyed, $100 million down the drain. But I feel good about it. And it's a mental hurdle, probably more than anything for him. Get that motherfucker up and the nuclear weapon we have, because it's in a weird way, his arm, if nothing changes and that leg doesn't have to be compensated for, that arm not having any bullets fired from it for an entire year in a lost season, it's kind of a blessing in disguise. I mean, I don't know how pitching works.
I don't know of a single leg issue that stops somebody from throwing 100 miles an hour. It's not like a Syndergaard situation, you know what I mean? But so right away, it's like a lot less, and it's not a DeGrom situation. It was a freak accident. So it's not something where it's been flaring up. And I think if he's healthy to go at this point and he's bouncing back this fast, it's a great sign.
that the Pedro toe is always the thing that scares me the most. That toe ended up, the toe bone's connected to the foot bone, blah, 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 connected to the shoulder bone. And they threw him out against Dontrell, and that was the beginning. The Wilpons killed Pedro Martinez's career. Like, they'll be sent to baseball purgatory or hell just because of what they did to him. So I was just getting nervous about that. But yeah, and if not, take your time, Edwin. Take it easy. Don't go fucking crazy wherever you are in the offseason. Just get ready to get healthy for next year, because you literally roll out of bed, you're in a wild card race in baseball these days. That's the beauty of this, no matter what happens in free agency. Last thing I wanted to hit on before we sign off. I just saw Doug Hargis and our boy Mets 2128 here. Fire Buck. Do you think Buck survives the season? Phil and I have talked about this a lot, but Kyle, how do you feel about Buck heading into the offseason here?
I think Buck survives the offseason. They have one more year on his contract as it is. If it's going to be a transition year and a year that they're not competing anyway, you want somebody who's a veteran presence in the clubhouse with all these young guys to teach them the intricacies of the game, how to get through a long season. There's other benefits to having him around. And again, like, people wanted to complain about the lineup and some of his moves in the bullpen and whatever else. Like, that's commonplace with every single baseball manager. You're not going to go out and find somebody else that's going to come in and change the culture the way that he can if you have him for another year. So I do think that he bought himself at least one more year. I don't know after that. We'll see.
Yeah, I mean, I think we're kind of on the same trajectory. And the only thing is, like, Buck basically will be in hell if he hates the kids as much as everyone says, and there's nothing but kids in the clubhouse. That's basically me at home with my kids. Tomorrow, wifey is going to work, and both kids are home with me by themselves because they don't have school until next week. And I'm just like, oh God, this is gonna be the worst day of my life. Times that by 12, and Buck has, I guess there would be like 8 kids around. He has to figure out playing times. I always thought the Buck hates the kid was a little overblown. It's just a fan base that wanted the kids up. The kids came up, and the kids all sucked. And now all the guys that were responsible for getting the kids ready have lost their jobs. And there we stand right now, right? So today, I think this year was a good lesson in terms of, like, prospects, no matter how high they are on some fucking idiot's list of prospects. Not Joe DeMaio, not saying Joe's in there. I'm saying, like, the Keith Laws of the world. Doesn't mean they're just going to come up, rake, save your team who can't get out of the 5th inning with their starter from sucking. So I think that's all we got for Farmer Phil. Is there anything from the farm right now that I need to know about? Did Jet Williams hit for 3 cycles in a game or anything like that? Has he become a pitcher?
I haven't seen anything about that, but we'll just say he did.
Okay, Jet Williams hit for the cycle for breaking news. Hey, no, or if he didn't, he's doing it tonight. We're calling our shot now. If they don't play tonight, he's doing it tomorrow.
I got this. He swung the bat only twice on Tuesday, taking 2 walks. But both times he swung, they were great swings.
Just as good as a hit, they say, right? The walk is just as good as a hit. Him and Brandon Nimmo are going to be fast friends in Flushing.
I have a question for you guys about the farm system. Not to start talking about the Yankees. They're bringing up Jason Dominguez, the 5'9", 200-pound tank. Do you think he's as good as advertised? And do you think Alvarez will go down as a better prospect?
Kyle, you reminded me of our other segment, Misery Loves Company. So we have to go across the Bronx. Jason Dominguez, this is not the time to bring him up. Absolute bust. He's a bust. The alien, that guy, I haven't heard about him. If your prospect has any sort of fucking, pulse, his highlights are gonna go viral. I haven't seen one of his highlights retweeted onto my timeline over the years. So absolute bust, absolutely terrible. I sound like a WFA and Jose and all this kind of stuff. Phil, someone who actually probably has seen Jason Dominguez's highlights, tell me about him. Your thoughts on him.
Yankees player development over the years has been just kind of as bad as ours. Like, they haven't really it's Judge and I guess Glaber. And outside of that, I guess have a bunch of duds.
Their savior, Volpe. What do you mean?
I mean, he's fine, but it's not. They haven't developed any stars. And I don't know if Dominguez will be that or if he'll just be another long line of.
You want to talk about player comps? They had Bo Jackson, Mickey Mantle, and Mike Trout as his player comps when they first signed him for $5 million. Dude is 20 years old now. I've been hearing about him for 5 years, I feel like.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, my God.
I feel like it's always a bad thing when you hear about a prospect for like 6 years or so. It's like,
he's like still just 20 years old. I'm like, holy shit.
Yeah, like, honestly, the only guys that I can remember hearing about forever and came up and were exactly that were Harper. And then, like, not even Trout. Trout was like the last year or so. You're like, oh, Mike Trout is going to be the man. But it wasn't, I mean.
Josh Hamilton and Josh Beckett were the only other two, and they were the same year because everyone was like, who's going to go one? Mm-hmm. And then, obviously.
Well, it took Hamilton a while to make the major leagues. So.
Well, yeah, he was busy smoking.
Yeah.
Snoring the foul line. Oh, God. So, yeah, I mean, it'll be, I'm sure Yankees fans feel exactly like we do right now, which is never a good thing if Mets fans and Yankees fans feel the same way on September 1st. But they're going to be like, shit, I have a reason to watch and care about this team again. They took care of, their cookie was Donaldson, right, who was just driving them crazy. They got rid of Bader, too, which I maybe it's just from killing the Mets, but I always fucking feared Bader. And
he's been awful as a Yankee outside of his playoff run. Like, his playoff run really juices him up in the memories of some people.
Mm-hmm.
But, I mean, he's a really good outfielder.
Great fielder.
Yeah, he was going to be like the fill-in for that horrific Hicks contract, I thought, but.
And the Cincinnati Reds have claimed Harrison Bader, so
they're going for it. Shout out to them, because last year they were like, "We're going to be broke and we're not going to spend," and like, look at them now. What a difference a year can make. That's my my silver lining for next year.
Yeah, and the thing about the Reds is like, I'm happy for the Reds fans. I truly am. I wish they'd shit in the tundra, and we could have all put it back to like once that fan shit in the tundra, that's when everything changed. I just want to say to the millions of Cincinnati Reds fans listening to this Mets podcast. Bad ownership, which I was told you guys have bad ownership, and an enemy of Steve Cohen. They usually have your 1 year, and then it just falls off the cliff. We have, I mean, what the Angels did. We didn't even bring up the Angels. What they did the other day, basically did the fantasy baseball. I'm just going to cut everyone right before the playoffs. Shameful shit to save $7 million, $8 million. And the White Sox, who fired their president and GM out of nowhere after they've been in the franchise for 1 billion years, and then just stayed within the organization to hire the new one. Like, if you're an enemy of Steve Cohen, I am very happy you're not the owner of my team, because those guys, like Artie Moreno sucks, Jerry Reinsdorf sucks. I imagine that idiot who starts with the C owns the Red Sox. Diamondbacks guy, you can catch these fucking hands too. Go fuck yourself. So yeah, the enemies of Steve Cohen, you guys will all have your comeuppance here. But I guess I'm kind of rooting for the Reds in a weird way. I feel like I've been like Ellie De La Cruz is so fucking fun. I kind of just root for him. But I guess when push comes to shove, it's just fuck the Braves, fuck the Phillies. Gotta believe.
Gotta believe.
Gotta believe.